Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Now we continue to study, but today, due to the pandemic of the corona virus, so I like to take this time to talk about the Buddhist view about this coronavirus. Uh, So at first, I'd like to share with you some video clips. I think most of you have known or recognized this type of pandemics. But let us review what happening, and I will provide the Buddhist views on this pandemic.
Was reported in Wuhan, China. Early cases were believed to be linked to a live animal market in Wuhan, and have since been spreading from person to person. Shortly after, cases of the virus began to appear outside of China, and on January 20th, 2020, the first case of novel coronavirus was reported in the United States. On January 30th, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency.
More cases should be expected in other parts of China and possibly other countries.
Coronaviruses are large family viruses named for their shape, producing spikes like corona. SARS and MERS are part of the coronavirus family, as well as viruses that cause the common cold. The 2019 novel coronavirus was officially named COVID-19 on February 11th by the World Health Organization. Suspected community spread was first reported in the United States on February 26th, with no known incident of travel to Wuhan, China. WHO said on February 27th, COVID-19 has pandemic potential.
This virus does not respect borders.
COVID-19 can cause flu-like symptoms that range from mild to severe, including cough, fever, and chills. Since the infection can include symptoms similar to pneumonia, influenza, and a common cold, only a diagnostic test can confirm whether or not an individual is positive for the virus. Thousands of people died around the world. The first deaths in the United States occurred on February 26th. There are trials underway for treatments. The vaccines are still in the development phase, and likely more than a year. CDC officials say that Americans should prepare for major disruptions to their daily routines. Recommendations to reduce the risk of infection include regular hand washing, covering mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing, avoiding close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory, such as coughing and sneezing, avoiding touching your face, disinfecting frequently touched objects and surfaces, using alcohol-based hand sanitizer and soap and water aren't available. If you're sick, stay home. If you're experiencing severe symptoms or worried that you've contracted the virus, call your doctor before you.
Okay, so you see that this type of pandemics start from Wuhan in China. So they say that they start from the wild animal markets. That's where they trade the wild animals, and sometimes they kill the animals on the spot. And that's why the virus from the animal got into humans, and from human we spread this virus to the other humans, and it take tolls on more than 80,000 people who got this virus, and more than 3,000 people died in China. And later on, it spread to different countries like Korea, Japan, even Europe, and now America. So this type of pandemic is so serious that affect the life of people tremendously. Let me show you another clip. Let's see how it affects to us, the one who live in United States.
Moving developments in this coronavirus emergency, and we will carefully get through it all right here. We're going to begin with the states of emergency across this country, and now here in New York City, a state of emergency declared as well. Tonight, more than 1,300 people sick in the U.S., at least 39 have died in this country. At least 45 states now in the District of Columbia reporting cases. Additional school districts shutting down today now 4.9 million school children across the country at home. That first containment zone now in effect, the National Guard opposite in New Rochelle, New York, just outside the city. And in New York, a ban on crowds of 500 or more Broadway dark, concert halls and museums is set to close. And that state of emergency here in New York City, the mayor reporting a major jump in cases today, 95 confirmed cases, saying there could be 1,000 in just a week. The NCAA tournament canceled, the NBA season suspended, and that chaos across much of Europe tonight. Americans are rushing down. President Trump announced overnight a 30-day travel ban from Europe to the U.S. caused a lot of confusion, and we'll explain tonight. Passengers right there in Barcelona lining up for a flight back home. While on Capitol Hill today, Dr. Anthony Fauci from the National Institutes of Health acknowledging after they were asked about testing in this country, he said, the system is not really here for what we need right now, saying, quote, it is a failure. And more tonight from Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, who had tested positive, they described their symptoms and when they knew they needed to be tested. Meeting in your nation's Chief National Affairs Correspondent Tom Hanks.
Tonight, preparing for life in the pandemic, in New York, National Guard troops tasked with delivering an estimated 400,000 pounds of food. The first shipments sent directly to that hot zone outside of Manhattan. We were there taking to the line. Here in New York, the National Guard has been activated, bringing bags and bags of food. These are mostly non-perishables, but they also have lunches prepared for children, breakfast as well. There's a lot of uncertainty right now in this area, but one thing is certain. They want to make sure families don't go hungry. So many here want to stay home, living in the nation's first containment zone. This morning, outside of an important testing facility, keep all windows closed. More than 100 cases here in New Rochelle, and in New York City, with 42 new cases today, the mayor declared a state of emergency.
I think we have to fully understand this is the shape of things to come.
This has been planned all gatherings of 500 people. Starting tonight, the lights will go out on Broadway. The Great White Way will be shut down, along with performances at Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center.
So we want to encourage dramatic actions in that regard. To reduce the number of people in a contagious environment.
New York, following the lead of states like California, Oregon, and Washington, all cracking down on crowds because of the coronavirus. More than 10,000 school closures nationwide, affecting nearly 5 million school children. Scores of colleges and universities also canceling classes. From San Jose to Salt Lake to Boston, so-called surge tents popping up, ER rooms preparing for potential patient overflow. As doctors across the country are sounding the alarm on the need for more testing.
Right now, we're really limited in the demand for testing, far away from the state's capacity.
Today, federal officials were pressed on who was in charge of making sure people who needed to be tested and even healthcare workers are. It's not.
Okay, so you see that now it's spread everywhere, especially in the United States. There's more than 1,300 people have been tested positively about this virus, and up to now, there's more than 40 people have died because of this illness or virus, and it disrupt our normal life. More than 10,000 public schools has been closed, college, university, and so forth closed too. The student learn online, and we see all kind of closures, that is school, business, park, theaters, any place that have big gathering that will be closed because of the concern of the spread of this viruses. And President Trump just made an announcement to declare the national emergencies because of this pandemic, and he limits the people from Europe to travel to the United States, and it affects to um, mm, hundreds of thousands of people traveling around. Again, it disturb the way how we interact with other people, the way how we communicate, the way how we commute, um, especially when we plan to fly. We have to be careful, mm, or we may use any kind of public transportation. We have to be careful about this type of virus spreading. And we know there's many politicians mm, around the world have been infected by this virus, like the mayor of Miami, the wife of a Canadian Prime Minister, many Canadians politicians, the ministers for Home Affairs of Australia, the leaders of the Democratic Party in Italy, the Equality Minister in Spain, the Health Minister in UK, several senior government officials, including Deputy Health Minister, two Vice President, uh, and so forth, were infected with this virus. And one member of the Expediency Council of this perimeter of Iran died because of this virus. And up to now, as of mm, March the 14th, we have, let me show you the statistic. We have almost 150,000 cases uh, of people who have been infected with this virus, and it's almost 5,600 people die. And China has kept the lead, and Italy is the second, Iran, Korea, South Korea, and now we have people infected in this country. So again, this is very serious matter that disrupt our life um, everywhere around the world. That we need to take the matter seriously. Otherwise, it may affect to our health. It may affect to our families, member health, well-being. So that's why even we need to be careful when we interact with our friends or whoever out there, when we go out to work, when we go to do the shopping, and so forth. So again, in Buddhist view, this type of pandemics is very serious, and but we recognize as human. We were born, we have some kind of illnesses, we getting older, and we pass away. So that is the nature concept of life, regardless of who we are, whether we follow any traditions or who we are. Uh, so we need to recognize this type of universal problems to our physical body. And of course, we wish that the scientists, medical workers, like doctors, could find some vaccinations to help human beings to get away uh, or to solve this type of pandemic problems soon. But in meantime, we need to recognize that as human, we have to deal with any kinds of illness, whether it's virus or headache, cancer, and so forth, because we have this human body. So that's why in the first noble truth, the truth of sufferings, the Buddha reminds us that that reality, that the truth we need to face. If we don't face with it and run away from it, it's still there. But the Buddha say that when we sick, we uh, look for the advice or the helps from medical advisors or workers like doctor or nurses, uh, because we don't have that type of expertise to deal with some types of illnesses, especially like this virus. But mentally, we can handle our uh, mentality if we know how to deal with that. But if we don't know, we may create another level of sufferings, the mental sufferings. We concern, we worry, we are frightened about this type of virus, and it may create more chaos or problems within ourselves. Of course, for normal people, we want to live, we want to survive. We don't want to uh, get hurt or be sick, or we don't want to die. That's why we try anyways to protect our life. But somehow, if we uh, recognize us, regardless of the situations, and the things we can handle is our mentality. Otherwise, we may create our problems on the top of the physical problems, like this type of pandemics uh, happening nowadays. Let me show you another video clips that relate to how people really concerned about food supply in this time, during this time of the year. Mm.
Our local stores are seeing a big boost in business. Tiffany Tucker shows us the crowds. People are buying. Scenes like this are playing out all over the country. People picking up food, water, and other supplies. Some of the checkout lines, like this one in Broadview Heights, are unusually long.
Here's at least because the people from the Americans are walking out supplies how long they were. It's taken about a half hour.
Also, shopping carts are filled to the top. Others have just a few items. Either way, cashiers and baggers are working hard to keep up. But we didn't overbuy. People are finding out what's in the middle.
I think it's because of what the numbers today. If it's all really hit now, you go in there today, it's just a man, so people are just stopping.
Empty shelves like these to be more common, mostly in areas where you find supplies like hand sanitizer, bleach wipes, soap, and toilet paper.
It's good to stock up on a few things. It's good to make fewer trips to the store when there's a pandemic. But it's not necessarily the case that we're going to all be bunkers for the next 3 months. So a lot of people are stocking up because there's no.
Psychiatrist Patrick Rose says it is also important to remember fear is normal. The Department of Homeland Security recommends storing a 2-week supply of water and food and making sure you have a continuous supply of regular prescription drugs at home.
These things we just need to have in stock in our house, and we got to cover with everybody else that's here to clean out the shelves.
So Dr. Ramos says if you are feeling anxious, it's important to manage that as best as you can. Recognize what you can. He says, while you're practicing social distancing, do so in context. It's okay to spend time with small groups of friends or family, even go outside.
Okay, you see that they recommend, the Homeland Security Department recommend that we may buy enough supply for 2 weeks. But somehow during this crisis times, many people they stock up their food supplies. And of course, it's normal for us, but still, it creates some kind of chaos and worriness within ourselves, our members, our community, and our nations. So that's why the Buddha mentioned that we need to recognize this type of mental sufferings that we have to deal with. That's another level of suffering besides we're dealing with this pandemic. So that is the first uh, mm, truth, the truth suffering, the physical and mental suffering. Again, the mental suffering that relate to our illness, it relate to this type of spreading of virus, and the mental suffering that we concern, uh, we are worried, we are frightened about uh, been tested with this virus, been infected with this virus. And of course, we're concerned about uh, the survival. That's why we go out to buy some food supply for ourselves. So again, this normal, but still, the Buddha reminds us that no matter what happened, uh, as much as we remain calm and peaceful, we would have more wisdom to deal with the situations than to have the confusions or anxiety. So at that moment, we would not have much wisdom to deal with the situations. So that is related to the first noble truth, the true sufferings, the physical and mental suffering. And the Buddha further mentioned that the second truth, what they call the cause of sufferings, that we need to recognize the root of the problems. So basically, we see that when virus start in Wuhan, the Chinese local governments they try to cover up the problems even in last December, and there's some doctors like Dr. Li Wenlan who raised the voice of problems to their friends, to his friends, but somehow he was warned by the local government, and when uh, everything spread, people recognize the seriousness of the problems, and later on, this doctor passed away too, beside other doctors or nurses that sacrificed their life for the patients. If at the beginning the Chinese local government let those medical experts to uh, uh, let the public know the seriousness of this type of virus. The problem may be lesser, but because of the cover-up, that's why it spread everywhere around the world, not only China, but around the world. And so we see that somehow, as human, we have the tendency to attach to our power, to attach to uh, our positions, especially in the communist country. They try to protect their position, and they have that concern more than human life in general. That's why somehow they try to suppress the bad news because they're concerned about um, it may affect to business, investment, uh, or travel, uh, especially it may affect to the economies. But somehow they could not recognize human life is more precious than money or economies. Or even they may try to save the face with other people, but still, um, somehow human life uh, could not be compared with those power. So that's why it happened. More than 80,000 people got infected with this virus, and more than 3,000 people died in China, and it affected the whole world. And we see what we call the domino effect, because we live in uh, the uh, life that what we call the um, interdependence. So it means we depend on each other. We depend upon our parents, the spouse, brothers, the sister. We depend on our friends. We depend on our government, and we depend on other nations to support us. So what happened in China with this kind of virus, it now is spread everywhere around the world. At first, because of the suppressing the news, the bad news, that's why it spreads everywhere. And on the top of that, uh, on this personal level, the people may not care much about the life of the animals, especially in Wuhan. They have the wildlife markets where they trade um, the wild animals, and sometimes they slaughter them on the spot. Uh, uh, that's why the virus from animals got into human body, and from human to human is spread everywhere. So because we don't care much about the well-being of other beings, especially animals, that's why we have to pay for the price collectively. Um, so on the top of that, there's many people they took advantage on this type of crisis to boost up the price of the mask or the commodities and so forth. And again, in Buddhist view, there's type of problems we have to deal with that ready mind. In the personal level, people have the mind to consume the animal life. Um, that way, the problems of the virus, and on the uh, local or the national levels, um, especially in China, they try to suppress the bad news to protect their positions. Uh, and that's why we learned the lesson from them that especially in the West, we have the freedom of speech. So whenever we have the problems, we would raise our voice uh, and let the authorities, medical advice, let doctor and nurses know our problems so that we can solve and deal with the illness on the spot. So that's a good approach for us to deal. And basically, if we uh, have the compassion towards each other, less, less of gender, nationalities, uh, age, and so forth. Uh, when illness come, uh, it go beyond the limitation of border, of gender, of nationalities. So that's why we need to develop the compassion mind toward those who are infected with this disease or virus or who pass away. In the West, especially in this country, we have the system that whoever boosts up the price, the commodities price like gas, food, and so forth during this time of crisis, we can let the government know to investigate and deal with those scammers, those bad people. But in general, we see that um, the cause of sufferings, mostly, like the book mentioned, is come from our greedy mind. We try to control our position. We try to protect our life, our position. We don't care much about others. We try to take advantage uh, on other people during the crisis moment because our greedy mind. That's why the Buddha say that the second truth of suffering or the cause suffering is come from our greedy mind. We need to be careful. And the third truth, the Buddha say that whichever things happen, it will be fading away, whether it's good or bad, whether it's sufferings or happiness, because things happening impermanently. So it means things come and go. So hopefully this pandemic will be over soon, so that people can get back to their normal lives. Um, mm, so that's our wish. But still, the Buddha mentioned that we need to be careful, and that we need to deal with all kind of illnesses, all kind of viruses that may happen in the present moment and the future. As long as we have this body, um, we cannot stay away from those illnesses or viruses. But the most thing we can do is to control our mind. That's why the Buddha encouraged us to follow what they call the Eightfold Paths, um, so that we can uh, have the peaceful life while we live in, and hopefully in the future, if we believe in reincarnations, we may be born in heaven, in human realm. So that's why the Buddha lists out the eight paths for us to follow, so that we can recognize the problems, we can deal with them in the proper way. And so, according to the Eightfold Paths, the first one we have what we call the right view of life. In Buddhist view, we have to have the right view about the cause and effect. We need to recognize us. It's universal law. No one developed that law. It's universal. It's a nature law. And so that means the law of karma. That means whenever we do things, it will happen, affect to us repeatedly. So, for example, if we do good karma, eventually we will receive good retributions, and vice versa. If we do bad karma, eventually we have to pay for that price. Like I mentioned recently, that because we didn't care much about the life of wildlife animals, we consume them, we kill them, and that's one way and the others. We got our bad karma back with those viruses. And so if we uh, be careful how we consume the food uh, is, with that kind of diet, uh, it's better for us to have a healthy life. Otherwise, we consume the animal life, especially the live animals. It's easy for us to get virus easily. Like if someone who eats sushi or raw fish, it's easy for them to get parasites in their body. And anyway, so that's the cause. The cause is from our greedy mind, and the effect is that we got the disease or the illnesses. And on the national levels, if the government know that we need to care for our citizens, we have to use any means to protect our citizens. So that is a good cause that people could support us. But if we put the money first, if we put the material first before the life of human, uh, eventually we have to pay for that price. That people would not vote for us anymore. And so we have to recognize the cause of the illnesses so that we can stay away from doing that type of cue and karmas, that kind of harming other people or suppressing other people. And of course, in Buddhist view, we need to believe in these Four Noble Truths, the path or the truth that help us to overcome the mental illnesses, mental sufferings, not only this lifetime but next life too. If we follow the Buddha teachings, we would create good karma by helping other people, especially during this crisis moment. At least uh, we'll generate the good karma of ourselves in this lifetime, and in the future, hopefully, we will be back as human again, or be born in the heaven. Ultimately, for the Buddhists, we could practice to attain arhatship or nirvana, but of course, this is the pure uh, far away from our normal people to reach. But at least if we follow the Buddha teachings, we could create good karma for ourselves to enjoy good divisions in this lifetime and the next. So that is the first uh, things that we need to have the right views or right understand of life, understand of cause and effect. And the second one is what we call the right thought. Uh, so uh, as long as we have the right thought about compassion, loving kindness, forgiveness, and so forth, we would live peacefully and happily. We would not dare to harm anyone else. So that's why in Mahayana Buddhist tradition, especially Tibetan traditions, they have what we call the Tonglen uh, uh, practice. That's been accepting and giving. They accept the suffering on behalf of other people and give it out the blessing for others. So this type of teaching is so prevalent in Tibetan traditions, and it was advocated by Indian monks, Atisa, during the 10th, 11th century. His name is Atisa. He uh, guide many people who were uh, who have the problem of epilepsy to follow this practice, and eventually they overcome their illnesses. And nowadays, science have prove that if we have the compassion, it's easy for us to live healthy physically and mentally. And so at University of Emory University, they developed what they call the cognitive-based compassion training to have the students to help uh, people develop their compassion toward other people. And compassion is one of the most uh, critical practice in Mahayana Buddhist tradition, especially the one who want to walk on the Bodhisattva path. In the Buddhist Sutra, the Buddha says that as long as we develop compassions, we have 11 benefits of having that kind of compassionate mind, a compassionate thought. Like we would have a good sleep, that's the first one. Second one, we wake up energetically. Number three, we would not have any nightmare. Number four, other people would love us. Number five, other sentient beings would love us. And number six, celestial beings, angels protect us. Number seven, poisons, fire, and weapons cannot harm us much. Number eight, we can focus our mind easily. Number nine, our face lovely. Uh, and number 10, if we pass away, we would pass away in a peaceful and calm way. And even if we could not attend to our ship, but at least we would be reborn in some type of heaven or come back as human again. So these are the benefits of having compassion uh, toward other people. That's why the Buddha advised us that we need to regenerate, develop those good thoughts, the proper thought uh, of thinking about other people instead of having the bad thought, instead of take advantage on other people during the crisis time. So regardless of the government, whether they follow communism or capitalism, mm, so they're still human. So when a virus spread, it would not spare them. So that's why with our proper thought, a good thought, we pray for uh, the victim a virus in Wuhan, China, in Vietnam, in Korea, Japan, Italy, UK, France, United States, and around the world. We pray for those victims, the one who infected by virus would get well sooner or later. And we wish or pray that this pandemic will be over soon, so that everyone get back to normal lives. And we pray that all the talents and scientists uh, could come together to find the appropriate medicine to deal with this virus, so that everyone can live peacefully and happily. We pray that the one who have the greedy mind or the one who attached to the power could think about other people that are suffering because of this pandemic. We pray that those uh, have the responsibilities for the public would have the power and wisdom to have people to go through this type of difficulties, crisis situations. Mm. And in Buddhist view too, we have what we call transmute the merit. Whenever we recite the Buddha names, we recite the mantra, we do meditation, we would transform our merit to those victims that has been infected by the virus, and we pray for those who pass away because of this pandemic would take the better the birth in heaven or in human realm again. So those are the right thought that we would like to send out uh, to those victims or those who have lost their life because of the virus. And we would like to send out good thought to the one who have responsibilities to protect the people in the proper way, in the healthy way. And so since time is up today, so let me stop here. And next time I will discuss more about how Buddhists view and how Buddhists deal with this pandemic. Nam Mô Shakyamuni Buddha. And see you soon.